Hello and welcome back to another one of Paul's beer reviews. Hope you're doing well today. I have got a West Coast IPA to review for you. It's a West Coast IPA from Cold Town Beer, who are based in Edinburgh up in Scotland, and this is their Windy City West Coast IPA, coming in at 5.1% ABV. What's it say about this beer? Style: West Coast IPA contains water, malted barley, wheat, hops and yeast. Brewed and canned for best of British beer. So yeah, I got this beer in a little gift set that was given to me. I think it was a birthday present a few months back, and yeah, so best of British beer set. So I basically got a Cold Town beer set with a glass. It was quite nice, but I realised I hadn't actually had anything from Cold Town beer. They did, was it an espresso martini beer that went into supermarkets last year? I never tried that, really didn't fancy it. But I do enjoy a West Coast IPA. So I thought I'd crack open this can and see if it's any good. 5.1% seems low for any IPA really, let alone a West Coast IPA, but we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt. We're going to have a crack at it. So yeah, Cold Town beer in Edinburgh. Yeah, 330ml can. I quite like the can art, the colour scheme, simple enough, but it's not too bad looking. But yeah, let's get this West Coast IPA out of its can into a glass and see if it's any good. Only a little can. I thought I'd try and give it an aggressive pour and develop a head, which I have done. How long it's going to hang around, I don't know. It looks a bit like a West Coast IPA. It is translucent, slightly hazy, kind of a cross between a hazy lager and a West Coast IPA, but it's certainly an amber gold colour to it, touch of haze, decent levels of carbonation rising up the middle of the glass on this one. A fingernail's worth of whitehead, which is probably going to dissipate pretty soon. Let's get me snouting, see what the aroma is telling us. Oh dear. There's barely an aroma to speak of. Very subtle touch of sort of piney bitterness. Touch of spice, touch of citrus on the aroma. Bit of honeyed lemon. Really, really subtle though. Struggling to get much out of it. Should we get stuck in? Cheers. Oh dear. It's very light, it's very thin. There's carbonation enough in it to kind of throw the flavours that are in it at you, but the flavours don't really remind me of any decent West Coast IPAs that I've had. There is a sweetness, like a honeyed citrus sweetness to it. And there is a touch of bitterness at the back end, which you would want from a West Coast IPA. But it's not a good tasting bitterness. It's a kind of slightly, it's kind of got off notes to it. There's a slightly metallic-y bitterness to it. That's the date on this can. It's good till April, this one. Up front, it's quite floral. Sort of honeyed sweetness, honeyed citrus, on arrival is actually quite nice. Then you get that carbonation rush, and then in comes this slightly herbal, spicy bitterness. But within that bitterness, there's this very odd slightly metallic, slightly acidic finish, which isn't the best. It's really subtle. Everything about this beer is really light, dubbed down. It tastes, I'm just going to say, it tastes cheap. It tastes cheap. It tastes like the sort of beer that would be produced for one of the discount supermarkets. Your Lidl's, your Aldi's, what else is there? Your B&M's, things like that. Beers that go into their stores that are brewed for them. It has that kind of cheapness, that air of cheapness about it. It's thin, it's watery. The ingredients that gone into it are, I would imagine it's a cheaply sourced and a cheaply produced beer. Floral, sweet citrus, slightest touch of a bit of malt character mid-palate. Carbonation rush dies down. In comes this slight bitterness, which is slightly metallic, slightly chemically acidic, spicy. But it never gets too strong, which I suppose is one thing that's going for it. It could end up being quite nasty, but it stops himself from doing that because whatever's got into it, they've been so minimalistic, I would imagine, with the brewing approach to this beer, that it kind of stops itself from becoming a drain pour. But it's not good. It's not a good West Coast IPA by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, quite forgettable, this one. Cold Town Beer with their Windy City West Coast IPA. It's a bit for me. It's not horrible. It's not unpleasant. It's not quite a drain pour, but it's close. It's close. At least in my opinion. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It's nicely presented. I like the branding. But that is a poor attempt at a West Coast IPA, I'm afraid. I mean, there's nothing inspiring about that. It's just, yeah, it looks a bit like dirty water, really. It's cheap. It's been cheaply made. And, yeah, it's just not great. It's not great. So there you go. 3 out of 10 for Cold Town Beers, Windy City West Coast IPA. Have you tried that one? Leave your comments below as ever. Let me know what you're drinking. Let me know how you're getting on. I hope you enjoyed the review. Give it a thumbs up if you have. Until the next one, you take care.